have obtained the life ring buoy.
So that's mighty nice of you, Poirot. Anything I can do for you in return?
Do you have the compass I might borrow?
Well, I guess I could let you use my compass. Not much use for it sailing around Lethercombe Bay. Mind you, return it though.
Do you have the winch handle I might borrow?
Winch handle? From my sailboat? Not bloody likely. How would I haul my sails up and down? If you'll excuse me, Poirot, I have some business to attend to. Don't worry, I'll be around the hotel if you need me.
Poirot, do you think a woman could have strangled Elena?
In 1926 was the first woman to swim the English Channel. I believe she could strangle you with ease, especially if you asked such a nonsensical question.
Then we should put all the women on the island to the test. Somehow.
Very well.
I'm not in the mood to talk at the moment. I'm afraid I need some time to myself.
Poirot, any indications yet on Elena Marshall's murder?
Indications, yes, but there is still work to be done, Colonel.
Of course. How can I help?
Has the body been moved from Cutter's Cove?
Yes. Dr. Neasden is performing the autopsy right now in Kingsbridge.
Did your men uncover anything new from the murder scene?
No, nothing, I'm afraid.
Have you an answer from Scotland Yard on the sketch?
Yes, goes by the name of John North. Here's the report.
I will copy the important points into my notebook.
Nasty bit of goods there. Hate to hear he's in my district.
Have you the report on the Alice Corrigan case?
Here you are. As I said, it wasn't my district. Chief Constable in charge did all he could. Eventually turned it over to Scotland Yard. They have a couple of men on it, I believe.
Merci beaucoup. I will make the notes of my own.
Husband's alibi looks unbreakable, and there are no other real suspects.
Do you have the background checks on the suspects?
Not yet, I'm afraid.
Mrs. Castle is very nervous. She may attempt the escape.
We're ready to follow if she does.
I have here the letter, written to Elena, signed only J.N. Do you think you could have Scotland Yard ask among her acquaintances in London if they can identify this man?
J.N.? It's not much to go on. Do you have anything else?
This photograph of the red funds was taken by a Jimmy Nash, as you can see from the reverse side.
Yes.
I will ask Monsieur Redfern if he knows Monsieur Nash, but please send it along to Scotland Yard as well. It may help.
Of course.
Did Monsieur Blatt report to you that his boat had been fired upon?
I'll say not. When was this?
That I cannot tell you. He mentions an accident in the storm only.
What storm? We've had fair weather for weeks now.
Then why would he conceal such an attack?
I could bring him in for questioning.
Not just yet, please. Again, I would advise only to watch his movements should he leave Seadrift Island.
I'll inform my men.
Thank you, monsieur.
Like a ride to the island?
Yes, please.
Let's be off then. I run errands for the hotel guests when I can. I'll fetch things from Kingsbridge that they can't find at the chemists here in Leathercombe Bay. I've got my own motorboat and can take guests fishing too. Though with U-boats around these days, nobody wants to do much fishing.
Mademoiselle, there is a favor you could do for Poirot. Would you be willing to help with an experiment?
What kind of experiment?
Or would you be so kind as to open the jar for me, please? Ah, I see you mean to prove your theory that no woman would have the strength to strangle Madame Marshall.
Can't do it, sir. It's on there ever so tight.
Would you mind asking one of the ladies at the hotel to open it?
Why a lady? Surely any of the sturdier gents could do it.
Well, Hastings, this is your plan. What do you say to that?
Tell her you have a phobia about other men opening jars for you.
What? Oh, that is absurd. She will think Poirot is a lunatic.
If you won't do it, I win my point. No woman could have throttled Arlena Marshall.
Mademoiselle Gladys, that is to say, I have the tiniest of phobias about other men opening jars for me. As unbelievable as that sounds.
Oh, no, sir. I believe it. Coming from you, I'll give it a go.
Who shall I have tried? Mademoiselle Brewster. Any luck with the opening of the jar, mademoiselle?
Miss Brewster opened it right up. Gosh, she's strong.
Merci beaucoup, mademoiselle. You have done an excellent job.
What should I do with the jar?
It is yours. Take it as well with the sincere thanks of Hercule Poirot.
Phobias must be a heavy burden to bear.
Hello? Need the sea tractor, do you?
Yes, please?
On me way.
liquid in the unmarked bottle from Madame Marshall's bath is the color that made her hair such a striking shade?
Can we talk later, Poirot? I have my other duties to attend to.
Eh bien, Hastings. We progress most satisfactorily. The course now is to identify and to remove the red herrings that obscure our true path. Where have our investigations taken us? I will remind you of those moments I considered the most important. You, of course, must decide which pertain to the murder of Elena Stewart, which are additional crimes that, while they may have no bearing on the murder, must still be solved, and what we still must learn before all questions are answered and the guilty unmasked. Are you ready, mon ami?
As ready as I'll ever be, I suppose. But could I have my sixth clue to the secret of the finger of suspicion first?
But of course, the sixth clue is telephone.
Telephone. Let's see what we have so far then. Power, lamp, desk, drawer, magnet, and now telephone. Thank you, Poirot. I'm ready to hear what you consider important about what we've learned so far.
First, what are the mysteries we are trying to unravel?
The murder of Elena Marshall.
Of primary importance. We will explore the possible suspects presently, but let us take a moment for motive. What are your thoughts on the reason Elena Marshall was murdered?
Jealousy.
More than one person would have reason to object to her attentions to Monsieur Redfern.
The murder of Millie Parsons.
We now know enough of the circumstances in the crime to point towards a killer with motive and opportunity. The anthropology instructor, Gideon Fell. And unless Mr. Fell is on Seadrift Island or in Leathercombe Bay in disguise, he is not a suspect in Elena Marshall's murder.
Yet there were several persons who were either intimately or peripherally involved in the case on Seadrift Island.
True. And 2 points remain to be cleared up. Can you name them?
Is Linda Marshall involved in voodoo?
The signs seem to point in that direction, I am afraid. Once we hear from Miss Porter and learn what Mademoiselle Marshall hides in her puzzle box, we will have our final answers, I think.
Was Gideon Fell the man you mentioned in your story of voodoo?
The one who awakens in the night in the greatest of fear? Yes, it was he.
Because of voodoo?
Is it so hard to accept? If you accept that he himself believed in the power of voodoo?
The murder of Alice Corrigan.
We know little of the details of this case. Only that the husband was implicated and cleared due to the unbreakable alibi. And this crime was committed near Brixham as well. It may yet prove to be connected to the Millie Parsons case.
I thought the police proved that Fell couldn't have been the killer.
There may be another connection, Hastings. Do not rule it out.
The activities of fifth columnists.
Yes, it seems clear that Mrs. Castle watches, but not in the name of England.
Voodoo on Seadrift Island.
Yes, and we have the indications it is being practiced here and by young Mrs. Marshall.
The ghost of Tom Cutter.
Yes, the ghost who is not the ghost. Do you have any theories as to who the ghost might be?
Mr. North.
He would certainly seem to be the most likely candidate.
The birdwatcher, Mr. North.
Yes, the report from Scotland Yard, which I hope you have read. It tells us he is the smuggler. But of what? Is he allied with the Fifth Communists? Or someone else?
Bullets and Mr. Blatt.
Yes, Monsieur Blatt is shot at, but fails to mention the fact. Shot at by whom?
A German U-boat?
Possibly. If it were the authorities, I am sure Colonel Weston would have been informed. Yet he did not find the incident of sufficient interest to tell anyone. He even makes up the transparent lie of storm damage. Why? Yes, all of these mysteries still bedevil us to greater or lesser degree. Now I will list the characters in our little drama. Do you believe that we can eliminate anyone from any of the mysteries we pursue?
All of the above.
Excellent! With one stroke, you clear the stage of the, how you call them, the players of the bits? Now we can focus on the true suspects. Now let us turn our attention to the more likely suspects. Which is your choice as murderer?
Emily Brewster.
The athletic Mademoiselle Brewster is a woman strong enough to strangle another, as your experiment proved? And we have not determined a sufficient alibi for her, I think. And yet she is another like Monsieur Blatt, par exemple, who apparently has no motive for the crime at all?
Carrie Gardner.
Another who is hiding something? Would she strike down the woman who ruined her husband's business?
Oakley Gardner.
The likable Mr. Gardner, who takes so long to find the knitting wool and who was ruined by Arlena Marshall?
Kenneth Marshall.
The jealous husband? Even the cool customer like Captain Marshall may have the fires that burn deep inside.
And there's the money motive too.
Yes, the background check of Scotland Yard should reveal if he has the reverses in business.
Horace Blatt.
It is true the man has secrets. He would also have had the opportunity to slip quietly ashore at Cutter's Cove and depart in his sailboat during the time of the murder.
Major Barry.
For Major Barry, a man who has lived through the violence of war, an obsession rebuffed by Madame Marshall may indeed have turned to more violence.
Hilary Castle. Arlena could have figured out that she was betraying her country.
Self-preservation. I did not see among her many attractive qualities any indication that Mrs. Marshall possessed the instincts of a detective. Still, it is a possibility.
Rosamond Darnley.
The murder of empathy, to protect the man she truly loves. She is a strong woman who has succeeded in the business world. It is possible she would be capable of such an act.
Stephen Lane.
A man so consumed by his zealotry, he has lost his position as a minister of God? The religious fanatic is indeed a man who could be driven to take it upon himself to personally destroy the evil he sees.
Linda Marshall.
Again, empathy? To protect him from the woman who makes him the cuckold in the eyes of all the world? Already she is attracted by the unhealthy interests. Already she knows the violence that can strike without warning. Yet she would seem to have the unimpeachable alibi thanks to Madame Redfern.
Christine Redfern.
On the face of it, the most likely suspect? The jealousy for her is the most immediate and intense. Yet she too would seem to have the unimpeachable alibi, according to Mademoiselle Marshall.
Patrick Redfern.
Again, an obsession that Arlena Marshall has decided to end? The lover spurned? Yet where is the opportunity? His movements are witnessed by many, including myself, until he set off in the rowboat with Mademoiselle Brewster. Voila! There we have it then. Barring new evidence against any of those we have eliminated, there are 12 suspects. Some would seem to have no motive, others no opportunity. But at this stage, we must keep our minds open to all possibilities. You agree?
Absolutely.
Then when you are ready, we will return to Seadrift Island. It is late in the afternoon. In only hours, the truth will reveal itself and a killer will face the ultimate court. Hastings, we are agreed Mrs. Castle may, as you say, attempt to do the bunk? It would be wise to make sure she does not destroy the evidence against her.
Time for a raid on the safe?
Précisément. I think now would be an excellent time to remove the contents of their safe. A solidly built safe. But the signal lantern, it is missing. Why? Mademoiselle Gladys, will you help me by answering some questions concerning the death of Madame Marshall?
Oh, yes, sir. I'll help if I can.
You were on this floor cleaning all morning?
Yes, sir. Just like every day. Clean, clean, clean.
Did you see Captain Marshall at all this morning?
Yes, sir. He came up to his room not long after 10:30. I heard the sound of his typewriter a little later.
When was that?
Oh, I would say about 5 minutes to 11.
Did you see anyone else on this floor this morning?
No, sir. But I was cleaning the rooms, so while I was in one, anybody could have walked past.
You cleaned Mademoiselle Linda Marshall's room?
Yes, sir. As always.
Did you do the fireplace?
There wasn't anything to do, sir. There had been no fire lit.
And there was nothing in the fireplace?
No, sir. It was perfectly all right.
Do you recall who had the late bath this morning?
Late bath? Oh, I know what you mean. I remarked to Mrs. Castle only a little while ago. I said that it was funny someone was having a bath. It was nearly 12 o'clock.
And who was it who had the bath?
That I couldn't say, sir. I heard the water going down the waste pipe. That's all.
And that's a clue, is it?
Of the utmost importance. Did you perhaps notice a bottle missing from any of the rooms?
A bottle, sir? What kind of bottle?
No, Hastings. The glass bottle found at the bottom of the rocky bath.
No, sir. I don't think I've ever seen that bottle before.
Thank you, mademoiselle. You may resume your duties.
Yes, sir? No more jars to open?
No. That is happily all in the past.
This looks important. I will keep it in my notebook. This room belongs to Mr. Blatt. I say, Poirot, not the usual kit for a gentleman sailor. A revolver, apparently owned by Horace Blatt. The revolver is loaded.
What's this? What are you doing in here?
I have been charged with investigating the murder of Elena Marshall.
I don't believe she was shot. Was she?
No?
Then kindly return my property to me.
Unfortunately, we have no choice, Hastings. Monsieur Redfern, may I impose upon you again?
Of course, Monsieur Poirot. My nerves are a bit steadier now.
Monsieur Redfern, how long had you known Elena Marshall?
3 months?
I understand you met casually at a cocktail party?
Yes, that's how it came about.
Captain Marshall tells me that you and his wife did not know each other well.
That's not exactly true. I saw a fair amount of her one way and another.
Was your wife aware of your friendship with Madame Marshall?
I believe I mentioned to my wife I'd met her.
But she did not know how often you were seeing her?
Perhaps not.
Did you arrange to meet Madame Marshall here?
I suppose it's no good my fencing with you now. I was crazy about the woman. Mad. Infatuated. Anything you like. She wanted me to come down here. Well, I would have agreed to do any mortal thing she liked.
Did Madame Marshall return your regard?
She pretended to. But I think she was one of those women who lose interest in a man once they've got him, body and soul. See here, I've told you the truth. But how much of this has got to be made public? If it all comes out, it's going to be pretty rough on my wife. I know. I may sound like the worst kind of hypocrite. But the real truth is, I care deeply for my wife. The other? It was a madness. Kind of idiotic fool thing men do. But Christine is different. She's real. Badly as I treated her, I've known all along that she was the person who really counted. I wish I could make you believe that.
But I do believe it, monsieur. Have no doubt that I do believe it. Was Madame Marshall afraid if her husband learned the truth?
She was a bit nervous, yes. I'm not sure I'd go as far as to say afraid.
Was there talk of marriage between you and Madame Marshall?
No, never. Elena was perfectly satisfied married to Marshall. He's a well-respected businessman. She never saw me as a possible husband. I was just one of a succession of poor mutts. Just something to pass the time with.
And yet knowing this did not alter your feelings for her?
No.
Had you an appointment with Madame Marshall this morning?
No. We usually met on the beach.
Were you surprised not to find her there this morning?
Yes, I was. Very surprised. I couldn't understand it at all.
Can you think of a reason why she went to Cutter's Cove this morning?
I haven't the faintest idea. It wasn't like Elena.
Do you know of anyone in London who might have the grudge against her?
Honestly, I can't think of anyone.
Do you know anyone with the initials J.N.?
J.N.? You mean Jimmy Nash?
Tell me about him.
Well, Jimmy was just one of the crowd. A photographer. Took a splendid picture of Christine and me, as a matter of fact. But now that I think of it, I did hear he and Elena were an item at one time. Haven't seen much of him lately. I'd heard he got himself into some sort of trouble over money. He just dropped out of sight. Monsieur Poirot, if there aren't any more questions, I think I'd like to be with my wife.
Of course, monsieur. I think you will find that she would like that as well.
Poirot, is it true? Is she dead?
It is true, Monsieur Lane.
You remember our conversation yesterday about the reality of evil?
Colonel Weston has put me in charge of the investigation. There are some questions I therefore must put to you.
I understand.
Will you tell me of your movements today?
Willingly. Well, thanks to you, I spent a delightful day hiking over to St. Patrick in the Coombe. Started off round 8. The church is about 7 miles from here. A very pleasant walk up and down the Devon hills and valleys. I ate those sandwiches in a spinney. I visited the church. Oh, it has some fragments, only fragments, alas, of early glass. Also, a very interesting painted screen.
Did you see anyone? The vicar or the verger?
No, there was no one about, and I was the only visitor. It's a very remote spot.
Is there anything you heard or saw that can help us?
All I can tell you is this, that I knew, as soon as I saw her, that Arlena Marshall was a focus of evil. She was evil. Since Eve, woman has been man's downfall. She can drag him down to the level of the beast. Arlena Marshall was a woman such as Jezebel and Aholibah. Now she has been struck down in her wickedness.
No, not struck down. Strangled. Strangled, Monsieur Lane, by a pair of all too human hands. Monsieur Lane, why were you forced to leave your church in Brixham?
I told you. I became ill.
Press him, Hastings. Now! Did either Millie Parsons or Alice Corrigan belong to your church?
No, but I knew what they were. A man named Gideon Fell. An innocent schoolteacher hounded by police. He was a member of my flock.
Did you preach of Jezebel and Aholibah when Millie Parsons and Alice Corrigan were murdered?
The truth must be told. God's vengeance must be proclaimed.
Were you fired because of your beliefs?
I am not the first to be martyred for the truth.
I think that I have nothing more to say to you.
As you like.
Well done, Hastings. I think that if Monsieur Lane wishes to see the true nature of evil, he need only gaze into his own mirror.
Hello? Need the sea tractor, do you?
Yes, please?
On me way. Is it true Mrs. Castle has seen U-boats off the island? I suppose it must be. She spends hours up in the tower at the hotel. The invasion must be near then, just as they say in all the papers. Colonel Weston has the Home Guard on the alert.
Ah, Major Barry.
It's true then? Mrs. Marshall has been murdered?
It is true.
Shocking. Most shocking. Of course, I can tell you after being in an Indian hill station, what you don't know about human nature isn't worth knowing. Matter of fact, this reminds me of a case in Simla. Fellow named Robinson. Was it Ramslan? Anyway, he was in the East Wilts, or was it the North Surreys?
Major Barry.
Doesn't matter, really. Quiet chap, you know. Went for his wife one evening in their bungalow, got her by the throat. She'd been carrying on with some fellow or other. By Jove, he nearly did for her too. Surprise us all. Quiet chap like that.
You see an analogy to this case?
Well, that is to say, never said anything about Marshall. Quiet, but a thoroughly nice chap. Wouldn't say a word against him in the world.
You were not at the hotel today?
No, wanted to do some telephoning. The post office here isn't very private, so I drove over to Kingsbridge. Had a bit of bother with the motor earlier on, but young Jenks patched it up, so off I went. Almost ran down that fool cat and dog on my way up the high street.
You were quite taken with Mrs. Marshall, were you not?
You know I was, man. Have the decency to let that drop, will you?
It is a case of murder, Major Barry. Poirot does not let anything drop. What time did you leave?
Just before 10.
What time did you return?
Only just now.
The drive? It is that long?
Well, no. Bit embarrassing for an old campaigner like me, but I got lost. These confounded lanes, twisting and turning all over the place. Damn confusing part of the world.
Did you speak to anyone in Kingsbridge?
Want me to prove an alibi, eh? Saw about 50,000 people in Kingsbridge, but that's not to say they'll remember seeing me. Was there anything else?
Can you think of anything else?
Nothing. I'm out of it. Right out of it. My motor car is running like new, Mr. Jenks. Thank you.
My pleasure, Major. Thanks to you, Mr. Poirot. I found a winch handle for you. What do you want with a winch if you haven't a sailboat?
One must start somewhere, my friend. Are there any telegrams for me?
I'll just check. Of course, sir.
Ah, there you are, Poirot. What can I do for you?
Do you have the background checks on the suspects?
Yes, here they are.
Any news on Jimmy Nash, the photographer?
I haven't received the report yet, but your inquiry got Scotland Yard very excited about something.
I will be curious to hear what they find. Au revoir, monsieur.
Like a ride to the island?
Yes, please.
Let's be off then. I have a theory about the murder. What if it wasn't murder at all? Suicide. I know what you're thinking. I know it's difficult to commit suicide by self-strangulation. But what if Miss Stewart was choking on something like a chunk of apple or something?
Can you row me to Cutter's Cove?
Mr. Poirot, after your efforts to find Millie's killer, I'll row you any time you like. You need only ask me. Climb in.
Hello, this seaweed wasn't here before. A sandwich tin. Good Lord.
You must taste it, of course, Hastings. But do not expect to find this is a box of powdered sugar.
Too right. A hidden passage. Now we're getting somewhere. For heaven's sake, it looks like an army has marched through here. Poirot, the invasion.
I think not, Hastings. These are not the footprints of many men, but of one man only, passing here many times. This is a useful point to measure the time it takes to reach Cutter's Cove, the spot that will be the scene of the murder. From the monastery ruins to Cutter's Cove via the tunnel, it is 11 minutes. This is a useful point to measure the time it takes to reach Cutter's Cove, the spot that will be the scene of the murder. From the Smugglers Inn pub via the tunnel, it is 28 minutes. And that, my friend, should be the last timing we need to determine how much time would be needed for any of our suspects to reach Cutter's Cove. Of course, they must also make their way from the scene of the crime as well.
Hello, another compass. This wasn't here before. And it's smashed. No good at all anymore.
A stroke of luck, that. It will make things easier in the end. You do yourself a credit, mon ami. Bravo. A discovery of significant importance.
Afternoon, sir. Care for a cocktail?
No, I thank you, Henry. May I inquire of your movements this morning?
Seeing to my duties as usual, sir. Cleaning up in here, checking stock, helping make the dining room ready for lunch. Mrs. Castle can vouch for me.
Merci.
Hello. What have we here? Mrs. Castle's wire recorder. I'd almost forgotten about that.
Hello? Need the sea tractor, do you?
Yes, please?
On me way. Is it true Mrs. Castle has seen U-boats off the island? I suppose it must be. She spends hours up in the tower at the hotel. The invasion must be near then, just as they say in all the papers. Colonel Weston has the Home Guard on the alert.
The sandwich tin from the cave? It contains heroin, beyond any doubt.
Linda? Linda? Linda, dear, I'm having dinner in my room. Would you like to join me? Linda? Linda? Good Lord, Linda! No! Help! Someone help us! It's my daughter! Please!
The doctor was called immediately. Mademoiselle Marshall's stomach was pumped. It was a near thing, but she was saved.
Thank God. The trial was purchased for her, of course, not her stepmother.
Yes, she is caught between two worlds, Hastings. Not the real world and the supernatural, but childhood and adult. We have seen how she played up to Will Jenks. Was it just for a shovel to build her polo matin? I do not think so. I would advise speaking with her as soon as we return to Seadrift Island. You must learn if anyone attempted to goad her into it, whether all of the items we discovered in her fireplace were put there by her, and above all, you must try to put the poor child at ease.
She didn't kill her stepmother, and then try to commit suicide in remorse?
No, Hastings, she did not. Consult the pushpins on the map. The picture they tell is based on the times we have gathered during our interrogations.
Someone lied?
Hastings, you may expect a murderer to lie.
Oh, right you are.
Of more importance is that someone thinks they have told us the truth.
Time to unmask the murderer?
No, my friend. The smugglers of the heroin must first be apprehended. They are the last obstacle that stands between you and their true secret behind the murder of Arlena Marshall. For them, a small trap must be laid. And so, what do we know of the smugglers? Tell me who you think is involved.
North. He's no birdwatcher.
Excellent, my friend. Yes, Mr. North from London with his criminal background seems an obvious choice.
Horace Blatt.
Indeed. Monsieur Blatt with the hardware store that is not doing as well as he would have us believe? He earns his income elsewhere. What are the clues to their plan?
The color of Blatt's sails.
Red and white. Oui, bien. What do they signify?
White tells North the heroin is ready to be picked up.
Exact. That is when North makes his move to collect it. The murder. It throws the plans of Monsieur Blatt and Monsieur North into disarray. They dare not retrieve the sandwich box from the scene of the murder, with so many police tramping about. So, we know three things which will help us capture them. The first, they assume the heroin is still where Monsieur Blatt hid it in the cave, for no outcry has been raised. Second, once it is in their possession, the safest route off the island will be back through the tunnel they have used so many times before. And third, we have the means to stop them in their tracks. What do we possess that Monsieur Blatt must need most desperately to navigate the tunnels beneath the island?
The compass!
You have it, my friend. The compass is necessary to navigate the maze of tunnels. We have found the broken compass of Monsieur North. Only the compass of Monsieur Blatt remains. And how can we render it useless?
Throw it off with the sliver of magnet we found in the garage.
Yes, of course. We return the useless compass to Monsieur Blatt, replace the sandwich tin, and the trap, it is set. Now all that remains before we return to Seadrift Island is the last clue concerning the magical finger of suspicion.
Before you give me the last clue, may I see how I am doing so far?
But of course, present the clues you have so far, and your interpretation of them. If you choose correctly less than half of the time, I will give you an additional hint, along with the final clue. Power was the first clue.
The thing is powered by electricity.
A good beginning. The second clue was lamp.
The finger of suspicion is powered by the same circuit as the lamp.
Yes. If the lamp was not on, the finger of suspicion will not point. The third clue, it is desk.
The wires from the lamp to the finger of suspicion are in the desk.
And the wires? They are very cleverly concealed too. The fourth clue, it is drawer.
You close the drawer every time you operate the finger of suspicion.
Your observation does you credit. The power it runs through the desk. The drawer, it is a logical choice for the switch to turn the machine on and off. So, the finger of suspicion is powered by the lamp through the wires hidden within the desk. Closing the desk drawer closes the circuit to allow the current to flow. Clue 5 is an easy one. Magnet.
The finger is controlled by the magnet you gave me.
That magnet remained on the filing cabinet, except when you tested it on the device. And the 6th clue, the telephone.
The telephone is disconnected.
Only to the outside line. It is connected to the finger of suspicion. You have proven your little grey cells are worthy of a final clue without hints. After the denouement on Seadrift Island, we will wrap up this last little mystery. The clue is code.
Some code I enter into the telephone.
Of course. Without it, the finger of suspicion will not point to the truth. Only he who dials the code on the telephone can make the finger operate correctly. And now, Hastings, when you are ready, we will return to Seadrift Island to speak with Mademoiselle Marshall. Prepare our trap for Monsieur Blatt and North, and enlist Colonel Weston's aid in their capture. It is late afternoon. Mademoiselle, it is good to see you looking so much recovered.
Thank you.
Captain Marshall, it is necessary that I speak with your daughter in private.
I can't allow that. She's still too weak.
It is of the utmost importance.
No.
Monsieur Poirot, I know what you want to speak to me about. I should like my father to remain.
Are you certain?
Yes, Daddy. Let Monsieur Poirot ask his questions. I need to answer, and you need to hear the answers.
Very well, Linda dear. Monsieur Poirot?
Mademoiselle, it is not true that you liked your stepmother.
No, I loathed her. She ignored me. That was all right. It was the way she treated Daddy I couldn't stand.
Did your father and your stepfather argue?
Daddy doesn't argue. He makes his point and then is done with it. But they often had differences of opinion.
At school, you believed an instructor killed Millie Parsons.
What?
You and your friends had been experimenting with voodoo?
The devil, you say? See here, Poirot. How dare you?
Mademoiselle?
Yes, Mr. Fell, he believed in it. He got us interested. We knew Miss Porter wouldn't believe me if I told her about Millie, about him grabbing her and the horrid things he said.
You decided to dispense justice on your own?
Yes. We fashioned a wax figure of him, got the nail clippings and the hair like the book said, then did the ritual at the polo matting we'd made.
A pole in the cleared circle?
Yes. It represents the center of the world. Power. Then we let him have it with the pins. It worked, Monsieur Poirot. You have to believe me, it worked.
Because he believed as well, Mademoiselle, only that. Miss Potter found out what about the voodoo?
She said we were persecuting Mr. Fell. I think she got suspicious herself, because she fired him at the end of term.
You wrote threatening letters to your stepmother?
I wanted to scare her.
So she would be more susceptible to your magic?
Yes. It sounds so stupid to say it like this.
No, mademoiselle. Children are often powerless to help those they love. But you had felt your power at school. Is it not so?
Yes, you're right, I did. I thought I could do something to stop her. And I stole Rosamond's typewriter and hid it in Mrs. Redfern's room so she would be blamed for the notes. That was wicked, I know.
You created another doll.
This morning early, I went out to the monastery ruins and performed the ritual again. Je vous ai battu, je vous casse, je vous maudis. Then I came back here and burnt everything. A little later, I heard she was dead. Don't you see? I thought it had worked. Just like with Mr. Fell. But I didn't want her dead, not really. I just wanted her out of our lives. Forever.
Linda, dear. Oh, my child. I'm so sorry.
Mademoiselle, did anyone tell you to take your own life?
No. It seemed the only thing I could do.
I will list for you the things I have found.
All right.
The book of voodoo rituals, the key to the monk's door behind which you hid the wire recorder, the stick pin in the hat with some wax still adhering to it, the hairbrush, the melted wax in the fireplace, human hair burned in the fireplace, green fabric burned in the fireplace. That is all, I think.
But hang on, that's not right.
Something? It is missing?
No, that green fabric. I have no idea where that came from. I didn't burn that.
Do you see it, Hastings? Even as she puts that typewriter in the room of Christine Redfern to throw suspicion on her, someone has the same idea. As I said, the pieces of green fabric that do not match the hat of Mrs. Marshall are a significant clue. Mademoiselle, why did you try to take your own life?
After I talked to you, I came back to my room. I saw someone had been sifting through my fireplace. Then later, my puzzle box had been opened.
But Linda, you can't have believed, not really, that voodoo killed Arlena?
No, but I knew what would happen. Daddy, I know in spite of everything you loved her. And when the truth came out, and you found out what I had done, I knew you wouldn't love me anymore.
Oh, my dear girl, I'll always love you. If you believe nothing else, believe that.
Oh, Daddy, Daddy, I'm so sorry.
Hastings, we are done here. I am sorry, mon ami, but I do not believe...
Well, that's put paid to the compass, right enough. It's no good now.
Here is your compass, Monsieur Blatt. I thank you for allowing me to borrow it.
It's about bloody time, too.
Can you row me to Cutter's Cove?
Mr. Poirot, after your efforts to find Millie's killer, I'll row you any time you like. You need only ask me. Climb in.
Cheese is in the trap.
Excellent. One more step only. Colonel Weston must be here to make the arrest.
Hello? Need the sea tractor, do you?
Yes, please?
On me way. I have a theory about the murder. What if it wasn't murder at all? Suicide. I know what you're thinking. I know it's difficult to commit suicide by self-strangulation. But what if Miss Stewart was choking on something?
You seem in a very good mood, young man.
I'm about to make 10 quid, and won't Gladys be pleased?
What is the source of your good fortune?
It's the funniest thing. One of the guests at the hotel is paying me to help play a joke on somebody. I'm to lay off the island this evening in my motorboat, and when he signals from the hotel tower, I'm to pick him up and run him over to Thurlestone. It's a surprise for someone, but I don't know any more than that.
We must learn more, Hastings. Is it far to Thurlestone?
Oh no, sir. Just a short run across the bay. Easiest money I've ever made.
When is this joke to take place?
I've no idea. I'm just to wait off the south side of the island until I see a signal from the tower. Then I head into Cutter's Cove and pick him up.
The lantern missing from the safe? It is now explained. Who is paying you?
Oh, I can't tell you that, sir. I gave my word, and he wouldn't pay up if I said.
And what is the signal?
Oh, sir, I'm not sure I can tell you that.
Where can be the harm? You do not reveal the name as you promised after all. There is another 5 in it for you. £5, Hastings. I think you would not be so free with the money if it were yours.
All in a good cause.
5 quid more? This is my lucky day indeed.
Here you are, my friend. £5 as promised.
Much appreciated, I'm sure. It's just a signal with the light. 3 short flashes.
Quickly, Hastings. Consult the codes in your notebook. Choose one that will be the joke on our adversary.
Three long.
Oui, but of course.
Fire on this position? Poirot, this is a rather bloodthirsty joke, wouldn't you say?
When the time comes, you can warn him if you like. Monsieur Jenks, your humorous friend cannot flash the 3 short lights out into the sea.
Why not?
That is the home guard code for announcing you have spotted the enemy.
Is it really? That wouldn't do at all.
No, indeed. 3 long flashes is the code for no enemy ship sighted.
3 long flashes. Got it. No harm done. I have plenty of time to warn him. I'm certainly glad I told you. I may even get another tip for warning the guest. If you'd excuse me, Mr. Poirot, I have to close up.
Au revoir, monsieur.
Hello, Poirot.
Have there been any new developments?
I'll say.
What of Mrs. Castle?
She met with certain individuals in Exmoor, then hopped a train to Southampton. Trying to leave the country is my guess. She'll be detained the moment she tries to board a ship.
You are watching her associates, I assume?
Scotland Yard is on it.
Any report on Gideon Fell?
He's being questioned as we speak. I hope to have some information before the night is over.
What of Monsieur Jimmy Nash?
Nothing yet, Poirot. Scotland Yard has promised to bring through sometime tonight.
It is time to clear up our remaining mysteries. I need your help.
Anything.
We must settle this business of the heroin.
Tell me what you need.
Accompany me to Cutter's Cave.
I'm ready to leave when you are. What else?
Your men must watch the causeway and stop anyone who tries to leave.
My men will be ready. Anything else?
We are ready to return to Cutter's Cave. Colonel, perhaps you should descend to Cutter's Cove by the ladder. I will ask Mademoiselle Brewster to conduct me there.
Why don't we both take the ladder?
Tell him the smugglers might try to escape by boat.
If the smugglers try to flee by boat, I shall be ready. If they try to make their escape via the ladder, you will be there to apprehend them.
On my way.
Thank you, Hastings. You appreciate my suspicions of the ladder. The sea, it does not appear too rough.
Poirot, you can't fly to Cutter's Cove.
Fly? No, no. Flying is not for Poirot. Can you row me to Cutter's Cove?
Mr. Poirot, after your efforts to find Millie's killer, I'll row you any time you like. You need only ask me. Climb in.
I say, the heroin is gone.
We can't leave by boat, and your bloody compass is useless.
I don't understand it. Compass worked fine before I loaned it to... Oh, hoaxed it, did you?
I am afraid so.
Clever, aren't you?
Oui? May I borrow the compass once more?
I guess you've earned it.
I'll take a sandwich tin if you don't mind.
A few questions, only to satisfy my curiosity. You received the shipments from a larger vessel at sea?
Yes.
Monsieur North, you picked them up in Cutter's Cave.
Yes, once I saw the all-clear signal.
The cells, of course.
Of course.
Red to tell Monsieur North the shipment, it was not ready. White to inform him that he could pick it up using the tunnel from the smuggler's rest.
That's right. I'd nicked a spare key months ago when the place was still open. Worked quite well for us until a U-boat took some pot shots at me when I was making the rendezvous at sea. Too dangerous now. That was to be our last shipment for a while until we could find another way.
The war, it is an inconvenience.
You can say that again.
Playing the ghost was your idea, Mr. North?
Not likely. Blad thought it would scare off any nosy locals. I thought it was bloody silly.
I think that concludes our business here. Colonel Weston, if you could hand Monsieur North over to your men, I would like Monsieur Blatt to join us this evening in the dining room.
It's your show, my friend.
I'd shoot you, Poirot. Somebody stole my gun.
Eh bien, Hastings. The murder of Millie Parsons, it is now explained. The fifth columnist has fled and will hopefully lead Scotland Yard to other traitors. The practitioner of the voodoo has been revealed. The smugglers have been trapped with the goods, as you say. Only one target remains, the murderer of Arlena Marshall.
Then you knew by now who had murdered Arlena Stewart?
But of course, all of the clues are now in your possession as well. Hastings, the time it has arrived. The crowning glory of any case. That sublime moment when the spotlight shines down. A hush descends upon the audience, and all eyes turn to Poirot. Tonight, however, the stage, it shall be yours. Some will listen in relief, others in anger at what must be revealed. And some will listen in fear as the net of truth slowly, inexorably tightens about them. Now, one thing only before we begin. Do you wish Poirot's help? I can whisper in your ear and guide you. Or, if you feel brave, I will sit back and let you present the case your own little grey cells have constructed for you. What then is it to be?
I'd like you to take charge, Poirot.
I am happy to oblige you, my friend. Eh bien, mesdames et messieurs, we are gathered here to learn the facts behind the death of Arlena Marshall. Mrs. Castle, our hostess, will not be joining us. She has fled the island, carefully shadowed by the police.
Good God, man. Do you mean to say she murdered Mrs. Marshall?
No, none at all. But for some time she has been in the employ of this nation's enemies. Rest assured, she will be arrested the moment she leads the police to her co-conspirators. Also, Monsieur Horace Blatt and a day tripper by the name of North have been taken into police custody.
What's he done?
He was arrested with a considerable quantity of heroin in his possession.
Blatt murdered Mrs. Marshall, then? No.
Fifth columnist? The drug smugglers, as I recall, Mr. Blatt. You thought this a rather dull place for a holiday.
And now we must turn our attention to murder. In order to understand the crime, it is necessary to separate the clues to its nature from the many red herrings that obscured our path. Once that is accomplished, we are left with the truth. Let us begin with the comparison of two bottles. The two bottles I compared were, of course,
the bottle from the Rocky Bath and a bottle of Trayendo.
While the bottle tossed into the Rocky Bath is important, it was only necessary to test its contents, not compare it to another.
Perfume bottles.
I speak of the two perfume bottles. The first bottle was in Madame Marshall's bath. She had applied the perfume before leaving on her float this morning, as I myself remarked. Why would she need a second bottle? And why was it found in the cave? Next, we come to another comparison. And for this, we owe much to the expertise of Mademoiselle Darle.
3 pieces of green fabric.
A torn piece of fabric was found near the cave in Cutter's Cove. Another piece of green fabric was found in the fireplace of Linda Marshall. They appeared to be the same fabric as that of Madame Marshall's hat. In fact, Mademoiselle Darle was able to tell at a glance that neither was the silk from the hat. I will now turn to another curious incident of this morning. Someone threw a bottle from the hotel balcony. It narrowly missed Mademoiselle Brewster. Why dispose of an unneeded bottle in such a fashion when there are convenient dustbins? The contents of the bottle was also surprising.
Artificial suntan.
Testing proved the bottle it had contained artificial suntan. But the weather, it has been most agreeable. The sun, it shines every day. Who would need such a thing? Then there was the contents of Madame Marshall's flask.
Trianol.
Her coffee was laced with a heavy dose of the sedative trianol. Instead of reviving her, it would almost certainly have put her into a deep sleep. Taken separately, their clues, they mean little. But together, a bath where there should have been none, duplicate perfume bottles, fabric for the hat that is very much alike, yet not the same, artificial suntan when the sun it shines brightly. These suggested at once to me a single thought alone.
Someone wanted to impersonate Arlena Marshall.
Someone wanted to duplicate the hat of Mrs. Marshall, her deep tan, even her scent. And how can we determine when this impersonation has taken place? It is a sound which gives us the clue.
The sound of running water.
An odd thing, that running water. It was heard both by Poirot and the maid Gladys Narracott. It was very late in the morning for someone to be taking a bath. And as I observed when I had occasion to use my own bath yesterday at an unusual hour, the sound, it is very noticeable in a quiet hotel. Why would someone need to run a bath so late in the morning, if all had already risen and breakfasted?
To remove the artificial suntan.
To wash off the artificial suntan, perhaps? The bottle, of course, it is thrown into the sea after the suntan is applied, narrowly missing Mademoiselle Brewster. It becomes clear, does it not, that someone impersonated Madame Marshall this very morning, very near to the time of her murder. But why?
To provide an alibi for the murderer.
Précisément. I have calculated the time it would take for every person on this island to reach Cutter's Cove, murder Madame Marshall, and come away again between 20 of 11 and 15 minutes to 12. And I tell you that only Mademoiselle Darnley can have done it.
Monsieur Poirot.
Comme-vous, mademoiselle? You were the only one close enough. Yet the nature of the crime, strangulation by powerful hands, eliminates you. Captain Marshall was typing the letters. Linda Marshall and Mrs. Redfern were together at Sanctuary Cove. Monsieur Redfern is in plain sight of several people, both guests and hotel staff. Mrs. Castle tends to her duties. The gardeners were together above the bathing beach, except when Monsieur Gardner goes to fetch the knitting wool. Despite Madame Gardner's apprehensions, he would still not have had enough time to do the deed. Mademoiselle Brewster swims, converses with Poirot, and rows. Monsieur Blatt sails, Major Barry gets lost, Monsieur Lane hikes.
What about the tunnels?
Ah yes, they're tunnels. They would certainly allow someone to reach Cutter's Cove undetected if their secret were known. But they do not make the trip there any shorter. Whether you travel from the Smuggler's Rest to Cutter's Cove, or the monastery ruins to Cutter's Cove via path or tunnel, the time it is almost the same. And without a compass, you may rest assured the trip would be much longer. The method of murder? Strangulation by a powerful pair of hands. Only a man or a strong woman could have done it. It is true there is a woman in this room who could have done it. Mademoiselle Brewster. Forgive me, mademoiselle.
Not at all. A dancer must keep fit.
This fact helps us to eliminate Madame Castle, Madame Gardner, Madame Redfern, Mademoiselle Darnley, and Mademoiselle Linda Marshall as the strangler. Strangulation, yes. A method of murder seen before in Devon. A schoolgirl named Millie Parsons, a housewife named Alice Corrigan. One murdered only a few weeks after the other earlier this year. One of these murders is connected only slightly to the death of Arlena Marshall. But the perpetrator of the other is far more intimately involved.
The murderer of Alice Corrigan.
Alice Corrigan and Arlena Marshall were murdered by the same man. How does Poirot know this? The unbreakable alibi. The primary suspect in Alice Corrigan's murder also had the unbreakable alibi just as we face here. An alibi based solely on time. Corrigan, the husband of the murdered woman, was apparently aboard a train when she was killed. Yet in that case, all a certain young lady hiker by the name of Elizabeth Stride must do is give the time when she discovers the body at least 20 minutes before Alice Corrigan actually died. The husband has time to alight at the station, kill his wife, and be gone before the police they arrive. Note how the alibi, it is worked precisely the same. And here? Here the clue that demolishes the false alibi in the murder of Arlena Marshall is her stepdaughter's watch.
No, Poirot, you're wrong.
Linda's watch keeps perfect time.
If the watch of Linda Marshall it did not keep the perfect time, I might have forgiven certain testimony as an honest mistake. But there was no honesty about it. It was a deliberate lie.
The liar is Christine Redfern.
You are a liar, Madame Redfern.
No.
You are the impersonator of Arlena Marshall. And the only way you could have done it is if you changed the time on Linda's watch. You had the opportunity at Sanctuary Cove. You had the opportunity to change it back when you sneaked into her room to add to her fire that cheap green hat you wore as part of your disguise.
But how could she change the time on my watch when I was right there at the cove?
Mademoiselle, it was easy enough. Turn the watch back 20 minutes the first time you go into the sea. Then ask what time is it as you prepare to go into the sea once more. The watch, it says 15 minutes of 12. But of course, it is in reality only 25 minutes past 11. She is already dressed in the white bathing suit like Arlena's. The green hat, it is concealed in her sketch bag. And the suntan was applied much earlier, now concealed by the clothes she wears to protect her from the sun. At 11:20, Madame Redfern, she hurries to Cutter's Cove, a journey of no more than 15 minutes. I have timed it myself. She finds Arlena unconscious from the drugged coffee and pulls her into the cave. It could not have been easy. She spilled the coffee. Tore her hat? She has but a few moments to dab herself with Arlena's perfume and compose herself before the rowboat with Patrick Redfern at the oars and Emily Brewster in the bow rounds the headland into Cutter's Cove. The time, it is precisely 11:40.
You have no proof of any of that. Why would she do such a thing?
She loves you, Monsieur Redfern, as you love her. Have I not agreed it is so?
Mr. Poirot, you're saying that the woman I saw lying there was Christine Redfern and not Arlena Marshall?
Oui bien. A little play artfully contrived for your benefit. Each step you were led. Each step you thought you saw what you were supposed to see. Then after you left to go get help. And then the real murder occurs. Now, of course, it is truly 15 minutes of 12. Madame Marshall has the time to wash away the artificial tan, change his clothes, and arrive for her tennis rendezvous.
Monsieur Poirot, I am sure everyone will agree that I might have had a motive to kill Arlena, but not Patrick.
You think I believe in your jealousy, mademoiselle? When your husband, if he is indeed your husband, loves you and you know it to be true? No. The true motive lies in two documents.
Letter from Arlena's solicitors.
A telegram reveals that a sizable portion of her fortune was paid out last week to her. 10,000 pounds to be exact. Do you know anything of this, Captain Marshall?
First I've heard of it.
Letter from J.N.
A letter from a former admirer named Jimmy Nash gives us an insight into Mrs. Marshall and her relationships with a certain kind of man. It is clear that he has requested and received money from her sometime in the past. I said to Captain Marshall earlier today that until we can comprehend fully and completely exactly what kind of a person Arlena Marshall was, we shall not be able to see clearly exactly the kind of person who murdered her. And what do we see from these two letters?
Arlena was taken advantage of by men she was attracted to.
Arlena Marshall was a woman who needed to be admired, adored. It is true. But what was the result? She was fair game for a certain type of man who takes advantage of such women. Just as Jimmy Nash convinced her to give him money, Patrick Redfern did the same. And I know as surely as I know anything, that before Jimmy Nash, there was another such man, and before him, another. Arlena was not the predator. She was the victim. That was her character. And that is the character of Edward Corrigan, the man who killed her, just as he killed his wife Alice for her inheritance only a few months ago.
No proof whatsoever, not a shred that will hold up in court.
Oh, I don't know about that. Here's something even Poirot hasn't heard yet. Although knowing him, he expects it. I sent a photograph of the two of you he borrowed from your suitcase to the Brixton police.
Allow me to make this small deduction, Colonel. They have identified you as Edward Corrigan and Elizabeth Stride, the young woman who found the body.
Oh, well, that's torn it. Edward, don't be a fool.
Say, that looks like my revolver.
You can go quietly to the noose if you like, my dear. I have other plans.
Poirot? Shouldn't we chase after him?
Poirot does not chase.
You damned, interfering, lousy little worm. One step and I'll kill you. I may do it anyway.
Here is your chance, Hastings. Warn him if you wish to. Try not to get Poirot killed, please. Do not signal with a lantern.
And why not?
I told young Monsieur Jenks the lie.
What has Jenks got to do with it?
That is Madame Castle's signal lantern you stole from her safe that she used to signal the U-boats. I too found the lantern and also the codebook. I told Monsieur Jenks that 3 long flashes of the light is safe, but it is the code to fire at the signal.
I expected you to try and block my escape, but I'm no fool. You're bluffing.
It is no bluff.
Sorry, you greasy little foreigner, but I just don't believe you.
Very well, Hastings. We can go now.
Right. That's the signal.
Achtung! Stellen Sie Koordinaten ein! Bereit! Ziel! Feuer!
Hell.
Gut. Ziel zerstörtes. Tauchen!
One mystery only remains, Hastings. You have the clue. Code. What is then the code that allows someone to control their finger of suspicion? When you think you have the answer, tell me and we shall see what we shall see. Bravo, Hastings. That is indeed the code that unlocks the finger of suspicion. You have uncovered the secret of its magic. The case, it is now complete, my friend. You have walked in Poirot's shoes.
Poirot, I'll be honest with you. Now that I've given it a try, your job is not as easy as I thought. But thank you for the experience. I am proud to be your friend.
And I am honored to have you as mine, Hastings. We have passed the hours most agreeably.
Yes, I thank you for that too. I'm sorry, old chap. I should trot on over to the War Office, I'm afraid.
And so, one mystery solved, and another, even greater, begins.
Don't you worry. No more holidays at the beach for a time, maybe. But we'll pull through. You'll see.
I feel like the dinosaur, Hastings. Gone is my world, where good always triumphs over evil. Where the clues, they all add up to the satisfactory solution. Where the murderer never escapes. This will be a war as we have never seen it. Whatever the outcome, mon ami, the cost, it will be high. And I fear our world, it will never be the same.